I forgot to turn the mic on. Okay, have we been talking all this time and you guys weren't hearing us? I have to go back and start over again. Okay, that I don't know. Can you hear? Let me see. I got it up here. Let me see. Let me just double check here and make sure. Well, let's see. Let me go back a little. Okay. Oh yeah. Okay. Well, I was talking and y'all were getting music. I got it up here. Let me see. Sorry. Let me just double check here and make sure. All right.
Okay, I'm stopping.
I've got the music muted. So, okay. Well, back to where we were. Let's see. Let's go back a little bit.
Starting completely over?
Well, kinda. We're, okay. Yes, I'm Betty. This is Mark. We are the pastors too. Yeah. Okay. Is that good enough?
Well, I guess so. So, what's our topic tonight?
Well, executive function, but no, we're not doing a series. I already said that.
So no serious series.
Serious series. Can you be serious?
Seriously. Anyway, I said a while ago, I have been an executive and I think I've functioned pretty well. So is that what executive function is?
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, the executive function, you probably saw me hold up my little brain, my keyring brain. And so anyway, according to Psychology Today, this is a definition I just found. Executive function describes a set of cognitive processes and mental skills that help an individual plan, monitor, and successfully execute their goals. And I'm just going to leave it at that for now. So, okay. And, all right. So, anyway. And that all takes place up here in the front of the brain, in the prefrontal cortex. So, yeah, my brain there has eyes. But anyway, I got this for Christmas, along with some other stuff. Anyway, I thought it was kind of cute. So, this is where the executive functioning takes place. And what I was saying when I was messing with that is that, and I've got these backwards. Let me see. Okay. When you have ADHD, your executive functions don't really work like they should. And there are anywhere from, depending on who you talk to, like I said, Dr. Russell Barkley says there's 7, or in his book, what's the name of the book? I left it in the other room. Something about managing ADHD, adult ADHD or something or other. Anyway, he lists 7 executive functions, but he kind of combines some. And then there's others. I've seen lists for as many as 12 executive functions. So, no, we're not going to exactly do a series, but kind of. We're going to talk about executive functions until we decide to talk about something else.
Fair enough.
So I can't tell you how many are going to, how many episodes is going to cover executive functions. But anyway, we probably better get on to it here. Let's see. So, okay, when you have ADHD, your executive, I was trying to find a picture. Okay, now I don't have. There we are. I was trying to find a picture of, I guess I'll go back here, of an executive sitting at the desk, and so it's kind of like that, kind of like you've got this little executive that's sitting at a desk up here in your brain, and that executive is supposed to be telling all the workers and all the neurotransmitters and what have you, what they're supposed to be doing. Does that help?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But when you have ADHD...
It's like little voices in your head ordering you around, right?
Little voices in your head? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, you go here, you go here. Yeah. Okay, carry on.
When you have ADHD and some other neuro developmental disorders or whatever as well, your executive is probably sitting there like this, staring out the window, looking at the pretty view, instead of doing what he or she is supposed to be doing, which is giving orders to the rest of your brain. So that creates some problems. And tonight we're actually going to talk a little bit. Now, we may go over our 30 minutes by a bit tonight, and then we may not. We'll see. Since I goofed up.
Okay.
But tonight is a good example of what we're talking about. We're talking about task initiation, motivation, and that is how I figured out that I have ADHD.
So are those two the same thing, the task
Well, kind
and
of.
the motivation?
The task initiation and motivation.
Are those the same?
Kind of.
Okay.
Kind of. Now, the actual executive function is called task initiation. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But motivation is talked about a lot. And when this was about a little over 4 years ago, I was selling jewelry. I was making polymer clay jewelry and selling it online. And it seemed like I could come up to Christmas. Now, I had a business coach, sort of, she prepared these packages, and, I'd paid for all of this. But she prepared packages of stuff, and she would put it out there for us to use. There were a lot of different people. She would prepare emails and what have you for Christmas. Sometimes there were some things other times of the year, but mostly this happened at leading up to Christmas. And so I had the stuff. I didn't have to create my own emails. I just had to change a few things in the emails. And I could send those out to my email list. And I could set it up ahead of time so that it was scheduled to go out at certain times. And supposed to just kind of run automatically. Well, that was fine until after Christmas. And I didn't always get everything done, but it did increase my sales, and it was a good thing. But then after Christmas, I would have the idea, and I would start planning, and I might even get the pieces made, or at least the initial pieces. I'd usually get bogged down taking pictures and editing pictures. But it seemed like I just couldn't get motivated to get a new collection out. And why are we... I've got you cut out of the picture. Okay, I'll fix that.
I stand.
I'll fix that. There. Are you happy now? Okay, so I would I would I had come up to one day when I couldn't seem to get things together, and looking back, I know that part of the problem was it wasn't just a lack of motivation, it was that I didn't have a deadline. And that's why I didn't have the motivation, because deadlines can really be helpful.
That makes a good motivator.
A very good motivator. And that's like tonight. I had the idea to start this a week ago. I had kind of figured it all out. I had a plan. And all of a sudden, it was late Wednesday night, and I was still, needing to get everything put together. And anyway, I was needing it to get it put together and get the video ready and all the different things that go into it. And I was really tired. Yesterday was a long, busy day, and I was really tired, and I decided to go on to bed. And I did. Actually, I had a couple other things that needed to be done too, and I got those done, but I did not get this done. So I went on to bed, got a good night's sleep, actually. And I got up this morning and started trying to get everything together and get it all ready and set up. And yeah, I was under the gun, and so much so that I was putting stuff together the last minute. So if you're wondering why we came on just a little bit late, that's why. Because I was getting stuff together at the last minute. So I wasn't planning on this being an illustration, but it turned out that way. So, what does this have to do with ministry, right?
Good question.
You're supposed to be asking the questions.
What does this have to do with ministry?
Well, that's kind of the way I was when we were pastoring.
You come up to the last minute Saturday night?
Yeah.
And what
was I doing on Saturday night?
Well, you said that you were, how did you put it? It looked like you were sleeping, but
I was going over my sermon in my head. I was usually stretched out on the couch or something, and sometimes I had a baby on top of me because we were foster parents, and at that point we got the infants, and so a lot of times I had a baby on my shoulder or laying on top of me or whatever, but yeah. Saturday night. And there was one time it was Sunday morning. I had studied, I had done, searched the scriptures. I knew what I was going to be preaching on, but I went to bed Saturday night and I didn't even have an outline. I didn't know what I was going to be preaching on. And you better believe I was praying hard. And Sunday morning I got up, and while I was getting ready for church, that is when the outline came to me. And I got up and preached. I cannot tell you what the scripture was. I cannot tell you what I preached about. Can't tell you what the outline was because I didn't write any of that down. So I didn't have time to write it down. I just, I was able to... my working memory was working, okay? And so I was able to remember what I was supposed to be doing, and yeah. So that's one way that it can impact somebody.
So did you realize at that time, you didn't realize until several years later that you actually had ADHD or...
Oh, it was quite a few years later. It's only been about 4 years since I came to that realization. And like I said, it was because I was having trouble getting motivated, and I couldn't figure out what was going on, why it was such a problem for me.
But looking back, then you realize now that that's what it was at that time.
Right. Looking back, I can see a lot of things. So what are some other ways that it might impact ministry? Where the pastor is concerned, obviously, getting sermon prepared. I know of others that come up to the last minute and don't have their sermon outline or whatever. And a lot of times we feel like we're not doing our best. And maybe that comes from people telling us in the past that we're not doing our best. But it's the way God created us. We're different. We think differently. We operate differently. Our little executive up there in our brains is staring out the window, But it usually works out, and that's because of deadlines. That's part of it. So one way, if you are struggling with motivation and trying to get things going, then you might want to set some deadlines. Get an accountability buddy or something like that, and set up a time to say, okay, I'm at this point on my sermon or this project. Going back to this thing here, you might get an idea. You might get a plan together, not necessarily for a sermon, but for, maybe it's an outreach project or something. You get an idea, you start planning, you maybe even get a planning committee. But when it comes to the action part, that's where it bogs down. And if you don't have somebody designated on that committee or your church board or whatever to take the reins and run with it, then the action piece may not happen. I gotta figure out I know there's a way to do pointers on this thing. I gotta figure that out again. But
going back to the motivation and the deadline as a good motivator, I remember back in college, I had to write a paper on purchasing management. Purchasing is someone that buys all the goods for the company. I had a paper that I needed to write. All I had was a little pamphlet from the Oklahoma City, Purchasing Management Association. And so I came up to the night before and I didn't have anything written. So I just started out and I just summarized what was in that pamphlet. And I was able to get it done that evening and turn it in the next day. And the good thing about that is my paper was submitted to a national publication for the possibility of being published. But so,
are you saying that you have ADHD?
That's a possibility.
How are you coming with the paperwork?
Yeah. That's another thing for this weekend.
Oh boy, his weekend is getting full.
I've got two major things I've got to work on this weekend.
Okay.
So I don't have a deadline, but I do have a deadline. So I need to get it done.
Okay. So, okay, let's flip it around. What if there's somebody the person in the pew, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they've volunteered for a particular ministry or a project, but they have ADHD and they run into problems with motivation. And it's not just ADHD. There can be other factors too. But they come up to, and maybe they have a deadline and maybe they don't. And the project maybe doesn't ever even get done.
May not get started.
What about a Sunday school teacher who doing just exactly the same thing as a pastor?
Come up to Saturday night.
Yep.
And they don't have their Sunday school lesson.
Exactly. So there's a lot of ways it can impact life in the church. And if things are happening that become obvious, people didn't know that I was waiting until Saturday night to go through my sermon. Now I usually did have an outline earlier in the week. And typically I didn't write my sermons out. I would have notes. And just it varied from relatively few to pretty extensive notes. I did try writing my sermons out and preaching from a manuscript. That really wasn't me.
It was me.
Yeah, it was.
I wrote mine out and preached because if I didn't write it out, then I would miss something. I might have an outline or I might have 2 or 3 points, but I would not remember the detail within those points. And so I did write it out and used a manuscript when I preached.
Okay. Well, and that was part of the reason that I went to manuscript preaching. I kind of changed my style, trying out a new style, which had its good points. But again, it was a lot more work, and it really wasn't, I wasn't as comfortable with it.
It wasn't you.
It wasn't me. Yeah. So, anyway, whatever. I'm not really preaching these days. So,
you could.
Yeah, I suppose I could, but that would be one more thing on my plate that I don't think I need right now. So, okay. Is there anything else we need to talk about?
Yes.
What?
Again, like the video.
Oh yeah, like the video. They probably didn't hear me
Share
say that
the video
earlier.
And
subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe to the channel. And if you know of anybody that may struggle with what we're talking about here, what do they do?
Well, they can contact me. The website link is in the description down below. And so feel free to contact me through that. And I'm not sure, I really have got to figure out if you can contact me through YouTube. I think you can. I mean, you can drop a comment. I don't know if you can go into the channel description and find my email address. I think it may be there.
Is it in the inspiredshepherd.com? They can contact you through that.
There is a contact form. You can contact me that way on inspiredshepherd.com. So, yes, you can contact me that way. Or you can just, at this point, you can go in and there is a button. You can schedule an appointment. I don't know though if I'm going to leave that up there. I may change it to just take you to the contact page. and have you send an email because it's a little, I don't know. It's easier for first time to do it that way. So just drop me a note on the contact us page and let me know that you're needing some coaching, and I'll be happy to help. And by the way, on that note, I'm needing some people, not necessarily those with ADHD, not necessarily pastors. In fact, I would prefer somebody that's neurotypical, meaning you don't have ADHD or some other neurological, neurodevelopmental, whatever. and so, if you've stayed with me this far, get in touch with me. If you're needing coaching, get in touch with me. Don't give concern about the cost, because I am still offering some free sessions, because I've got some things I have to turn in to get my certifications. So I'm needing some help. I need some people that are willing to have our sessions recorded. And if that would be you, then contact me and we'll talk. So anyway, at this point I can't tell you how many free sessions I'm going to be giving away, but there may be some that are just very low cost. So contact me. This is a limited time deal. So, all right. Anything else? So like, subscribe,
share, and contact you.
Yeah, and contact me. So, and with that, I think that we've had enough fun for one night. Now, if I can figure out what I'm doing here again. Okay, let's see.